the deal between Israel and Hamas to release 50 hostages and pause fighting for 4 days has been delayed by at least 24 hours. I'm joined right now by former Defence Minister, Conservative MP for Bournemouth East, Tobias Ellwood. Good morning to you, Tobias.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Big concerns about this delay. We're not quite sure why. Is it because, Hamas the leadership haven't signed on the dotted line the deal that has been brokered by the Qatari leadership? But are you concerned that this deal could fall apart?
No, I'm concerned that it is taking so long, 45 days, in fact, to get to where we are today. But I understand the current delay is not because of any major disagreement. It's some technical issues, which I hope will see this deal go through, some hostages released. It isn't just Qatar, by the way. Egypt, United States, and indeed the Red Cross are playing an important part as well. There are two factors to this. It's not just the release of the hostages, which we want to see after their horrible ordeal. There's also connected to the Hamas prisoner release that the Israelis are holding. And then there's what's going to happen during this impasse, during this pause. How much aid is going to be allowed to get through, how much humanitarian support can get in right across Gaza, how much fuel, desalination, and so forth can be deployed to support the 2 million people that are also caught up in this as well. Yeah. Lots of detail here. I do think it's going to be delayed, it looks like, by about 24 hours now.
Yeah, indeed. And while we're talking to you, people watching, you see the pictures live from outside that Shifa hospital in Gaza, obviously been at the centre of a lot of attention lately. We are in this situation, though, are we not, where, we're dealing with a democratically elected government in Israel, and we've got a terrorist organisation. The negotiations being led in Qatar by the multimillionaire Hamas leader who masterminded the brutal massacre, rape, torture, murder and hostage-taking on October the 7th. It's just quite an extraordinary situation. There are some people who criticise even Israel, for not agreeing to a pause in fighting sooner. But others, we've seen John Bolton, a former National Security Advisor of the United States, the last 24 hours, saying, look, this is the Israeli government really giving too much power and control to Hamas, because we're told 12 to 13 women and children and hostages will be released each day when it starts. But they get to decide who. We're not getting any. I think the Israeli government are going to be informed the day before. They're not going to tell families until they've got them in the safe clutches before getting people's hopes up and down. But basically, Hamas can say, "Oh well, we're going to do 2 today, so we're going to have to extend the pause in fighting a little bit longer." This is at a time when Hamas are demanding, as part of this deal, there shouldn't be any surveillance of their movements in Gaza by the Israeli forces. I mean, when they are basically moving hostages and basically sort of re-establishing their military power. This is an extraordinary handover of control and power that Israel is giving to a terrorist organisation.
Yeah, I mean, you summarise the huge complexities that are involved here. You remember this big debate that we had in the last couple of weeks, whether we should be supporting, indeed voting for a ceasefire, and you've articulated it very well. Indeed, you actually empower Hamas, a terrorist group that's conducted such barbaric attacks in Israel itself. Even by negotiating now, they are leveraged into a place that they want. They want to be seen as the longer-term representatives of the Palestinian people. And that shows the complexities of what happens next. I agree with you. Israel, as a democracy, has its right to defend itself. Where I've had issues, and I've been very vocal about this, is what is the plan for what comes next? What is the governance structure? What is the security structure? What is the humanitarian support? What is that longer-term strategy of where the military phase of what Israel is trying to achieve takes us to? And that, I'm afraid, there are no answers at the moment, which is why we need to start thinking about what replaces Hamas. Because if all you do is destroy the Gaza Strip itself, you won't destroy the ideology. Hamas 2.0 will emerge also, because there's another issue that sits above this, which is Iran. Iran is funding Hamas. It funds Hezbollah, it funds the Houthis, it funds a lot of terrorist operations in the Middle East. And we, the West, have done very, very little to actually quash, restrict that proxy influence that's now been there for decades.
Well, America's just handed over billions of money back to them. And by the way, again, Qatar. I I mean, oh, that's absolutely fine, Qatar. You just have plenty of terrorist leaders come and live in your country who you have dealings with. Absolutely not a problem at all. And we treat Qatar as if somehow they are somehow our friend. They're not a friend or an ally.
Well, again, you underlined the absolute complexities that we're actually dealing with here. I'm pleased to see the Foreign Secretary is now in the region. Britain, because of our history, our connectivity, indeed our trust that we have right across the piece, I think has a significant influential role to play. But as I say, there's the immediate challenge of how do we take advantage of a pause in the fighting now to make sure not just groups of hostages, but all the hostages are released, how humanitarian aid can get in, but those longer term challenges of what happens next, not just for Gaza, but for the West Bank as well, and getting back to a two-state solution. A lot of big questions that Israel cannot do alone. And this is the important point. Israel has suffered immensely here, but the longer term solutions, the longer term support must come from the local Arab states, including Qatar, but most importantly, Egypt and Jordan, that have a much stronger relationship with Israel, and the international community to help strengthen the Palestinians so they can look forward to a future that's without Hamas, without terrorists leading them.